Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahakwarash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. News and prophecy, linking things happening worldwide to the Holy Scriptures. All right, we do this so that the faithful elect, the remnant of Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, can know and understand that all of these things are happening as a result of biblical prophecy. All right, don't be frightened. All right, don't be moved by the talking points of the devil. All right, because before you know it, he will be moved out of the way through who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, Mashiach Yahweh Shai. But we know, all right, that he's going to come down with great wrath, all right, and that the only way to get to the kingdom is through the straight gate, the straight and narrow path, all right, in which, you know, prophetically, all right, just like you play particular video games, there's a, you know, King Koopa. In order to get the princess, you had to get past King Koopa. Well, prophetically, we know Esau is the end of the world, okay? And at the forefront of Esau, Edom's kingdom are the biblical Amalekites, all right, which have pushed the narrative throughout the four corners of the earth that they, all right, are the children of the Most High, all right? They are the true people of the book, all right? And we have various videos that debunk that. All right, so as you can see, they're using their power in these latter days to deceive, wage war, you know, shut people up, take away rights, take away lands. Okay, and they're at the forefront of, you know, all of this AI technology you see being spread abroad, which is damaging the earth. All right, and as we see, all right, these double F's, all right, are on the rise and increasing because they have nothing else left but to point the finger, blame, accuse, and bring the sword. Okay, and this is an article that was written in June of 2025, which we're not going to get into this article, but all right, look what it said. All right, wait. All right, for a double F. When you see us, when you hear us say double F, all right, that's what we're talking about from these people. All right, and then when you read the heading of it, it says to draw the U.S. into a broader war with Iran. All right, Israel might organize terrorist attacks, and as history shows, its allies could be sacrificed for it. All right, and moves are being made to fulfill this as well, as we know the scriptures say, all right, prophetically, that it will be the least of the flock, all right, Jeremiah 50 and 45, therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Babylon and against his purposes, all right, that he have purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So we know prophetically these tiny tops are going to be used, all right, to stir things up, all right, you know, draw out Babylon the Great, all right, to overstep its boundaries, okay, and eventually all of America's allies will turn on her, as the prophecy say. All right, and once they go into Iran and stir up a war there, which they've been flirting with that idea, things are going to go left. All right, they're you know, threatening a war with you know, Venezuela. All right, these devils are all over the place, but you know, that's not the purpose of this lesson. And as you can see, Babylon the Great is directly tied to Esau, Edom. Jeremiah 49 and 20, therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Edom and his purposes. So Edom and Babylon are the same. Jeremiah 50, therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Jeremiah 49:20, therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. See, surely shall the least of the flock draw them out. So, all right, the state of Israel, the tiny top, is being used in the latter days to stir things up. All right, and as they have bought out, all right, this whole thing called America, all right, to do their bidding. All right, again, there is a foreign government that is in control of the American, future. You see, but this is why you see so many Israelites trying to take focus off of the reality of what's happening. All right, this is why everybody's all over the place, because Esau Edom is at the very end of his world, and see, Satan is going to operate through people to confuse you. Again, one of my favorite scriptures lately. All right. Let's get that. I believe it's in the book of Proverbs 17. Salakia, it's a little early. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. Proverbs 17:24. Wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of a fool, all right, are in the ends of the earth. All right. Let's get this in the NLT. All right. Sensible people keep their eyes glued on wisdom, but a fool's eyes wander into the ends of the earth. He's all over the place. All right. And Satan and his minions, all right, are doing a great job of that here in these latter days, especially here amongst you Israelites, when we should be, thanking Yahweh through Yahweh Shai for these various prophecies coming to pass, showing that the Bible itself, all right, via the prophecies, all right, because that's what separate this book and this belief from any other belief, is the great prophecies in it. Okay, the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahweh Shai. These are things that we should be rooting ourselves in, all right, because we're going to have to take a great leap of faith. Let's see, Israel's eyes are all in the ends of the earth, looking for something new, right? Coming up with some new argument, and none of it is centered around the fall of Esau Edom. You see that? Because ultimately they're operating in the spirit of Satan. They're adverse to the truth, questioning the names, the language, the breakdowns that we've been given that are at the forefront of this great awakening. Now everything needs to be changed. Well, this shows you that these are foolish men. Okay. And ultimately they don't want this place to fall. All right. And they're operating in the spirit of Satan. So as you can see here, this article said, wait on this from them. All right. And we're going to get into a few of these double F's that have been taking place, over the past couple of weeks. I've been meaning to get into them, but there's a lot happening. Spirit's been on me to go into, particular breakdowns and edification for the body. And hopefully you brothers and sisters have been edified. But today we're going to tap into some news and prophecy. As you can see here in America, all right, there were close to 500 mass shootings that took place in 2025. And we know the majority of these people are hooked on psych meds, bugged out. Some of them are Manchurian candidates under mind control. Okay, some of them are double F's, but we know there's a psychological operation being waged on the people. All right, this is why many New Year's parties are already in talks of being shut down. These events they have where they, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A lot of them are in talks of being shut down, which goes into the mirth being taken away. But they're public safety reasonings. Okay. So look for an uptick in these double F's, in these mass, all right, operations in 2026. Remember how 2025 started off, all right, with some psychological operations, shootings, Teslas, blowing up, You see, well, just wait. All right, because these people operate on the left hand side. They're witches and warlocks, and they're not going to stop. And see, we're at the point where they're so exposed, all right, that they're going to have to come down with great wrath and shut free speech out and do exactly what we've been telling you that they were going to do. Okay, because they don't have anything left. Okay, so I wanted to chime into this video here, done by the beloved Elder Malcolm, GMS Maccabean Spirit. All right, and I won't go into it. I'll just go to the video that he played, but check this video out, and subscribe. GMS Maccabean Spirit 144. Subscribe and be edified. When events are so sloppy and they push the story anyway, all right, because this recent double F psychological operation that they did in Australia and also here in Babylon, you know, the one in Australia was just absolutely tasteless. It was tacky. Nothing added up. It was a clear, you know, act of a FF. And as you can see here, Candace Owens, all right, some weeks ago called out that some type of false flag was coming. Okay, and we'll get into that in that video. As a matter of fact, let's pull this video up. And before we do that, so check this video out. All right, and we'll go to the video that he has up. But the beloved brother Tazamak Debar, all right, out of the GMS North Carolina camp. As you can see his page here, GMS Holy Spirit 144 Tazamak Debar. More draconian laws. Subscribe to the brother's page and be edified. More draconian laws. So check this out. I'm gonna play this and then we'll get into some videos, and hopefully you brothers and sisters are edified, because basically they're getting ready to come with it. All right, they've pretty much showed their hand on what they plan on doing with the AI. Okay, you know, the MOTB infrastructure is all set up. All right, now all they need to do is shut people up and justify off it a whole hell of a lot of people. All right, as they set it up, as they justify, you know, these stricter laws and taking away people's freedom of speech. All right, they're going to do it by these psychological operations. All right, which, as we know, the scriptures say they frame mischief by law. Let's get that. All right, these are scriptures we always bring out. All right, but they're hidden, so why not bring them out again? This is the book of Psalms 94 and 20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? And our people want to have fellowship with this system. All right, we know that we have to use the world. We don't abuse it, man. Okay, we're not getting into voting. You know, we don't get into the, you know, their politics. We don't, you know, we use the scriptures to just bring out why these things are happening. Okay. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn innocent blood. As we know, they are after upright speech. Okay. Upright conversation, as it says. Okay. In the book of Psalms, right? 37, I believe. All right. They are honing in on rooting out any opposition to their NWO. And the way that they'll do it is by false flag scenarios, black swan events, all right, that captivate the minds of the people, all right? And what we're seeing an uptick is, you know, just like you had recently in Los Angeles, you're seeing an uptick in anti-semantics, all right, crimes, meaning crimes against the tiny tops. Psalms 37 and 14, the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. All right, and they'll create, you know, a crazy event that is a complete psyop. Now, in some of these events, some people do actually get harmed. But we're going to take a look at this recent one in Australia and just show you how absolutely, because as they come down with great wrath, it's going to get more and more sloppy. But they're really after upright conversation to condemn innocent blood. All right. But what they'll do, they'll even sacrifice some of their own, okay, to come at now what they call black supremacist groups. All right. They're even condemning white supremacist groups. Now, we know historically white supremacist groups have a history of actually shooting up churches, burning people, burning down buildings, hanging people, chopping off body parts, shooting up, movie theaters, shooting up arenas, shooting up everything. All right. And, so-called black and brown people have just, organized together and, complained about particular things. There has not been a history of, Israelites, banding together to, wage war or to physically damage somebody because of their racial superiority. That's literally an Edomite thing. All right. But we're living in a time where they have merged the two. So your so-called white supremacist group is no different from a so-called black supremacist group. And there's no such thing as black supremacy within the system of Esau, Edom supremacy. Because to be supreme over one, you have to control the quality of their air, water, food, education, music. All right. The vitamins they have access to, the herbs they have access to, you have your hands in it. Okay. And dilute things and poison things. Make sure that drugs go into this particular neighborhood. You have, jurisdiction over what music is played. All right. On the radio and on the airwaves. So there's no way a so-called black man or a so-called, brown man could be supreme in this system or supremacy or have supremacy over another. We don't control anything. We don't control the resources. But that's one of the psychological operations that's been waged. Now they've been able to merge the so-called black man, right, and the Israelites to Islam. They've merged it to Islamic, merged us with Islamic terrorists, white supremacist, groups. So now, all right, after they continuously push these, false flags, pretty much we're going to have to get control. All right. We're going to have to shut down this. We're going to have to shut down that. These type of people are enemies to our state. All right. Stricter, hate speech laws, stricter gun laws. All right. And the rest. Check out this video about a brother.
There you go, guys. The Australian federal government has made its move. Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister this morning, has just come out and said that Australia is going to be subject to the strictest free speech laws in the world, as far as democratic countries go at least. Chris Bowen said that these laws that they are drafting are going to be, in his words, pushing the boundaries of the Constitution.
Basically, they're doing away with the Constitution. And we know during the C-19 fiasco, Australia was subject to some very, very strict laws. Okay, because, before they roll out, things worldwide, they try it in the more docile countries. Okay, because Australia is a part of the beast system, right? But they're not known, for, some of their citizens may have, gun, but not like over here in America. America, everybody, damn near everybody's armed. Okay. So you see these things happen in a country like Australia. Okay. And other particular places where they, work their wickedness. Cause that's what this man is doing. That's what's happening. Wickedness is being worked. Okay. And then laws come. All right, that pretty much take away the rights of the people so that they can justify this AI overtaking.
They have come out this morning and said that they are lowering the barometer of what is considered hate speech and giving the Australian Federal Police more funding and more jurisdiction so that the Federal Police can come and, in the words of Anthony Albanese, come and knock on the door, give a warning, or put you in handcuffs. There you go, guys. Australia has fallen. The question I have is...
And what does that sound like?
All right, there you go. You already know what this means. You already know what this means. So this is the situation that happened in Australia. Let's take a look at this and how poorly orchestrated this was. They don't even give a damn anymore. Okay, they have no, they give no shits. All right, you know, remember 911? You know, that was their last, you know, pretty much great psychological operation. But you know, now with AI on the rise, we know they have things up their sleeve. But this one, they didn't even try.
You see the man in white there running up and tackling that suspected gunman. There is a struggle, and you can see he appears to wrestle what looks like a shotgun out of that man's hands. Now,
so at first they said this guy didn't have any injuries. The next day he's in a hospital with multiple gun wounds. That's one of the things that was horrible about this situation. But let's keep going.
The individual in white has not at this point been identified, but local leaders are hailing what they say were extraordinary acts of personal courage by people who just jumped in at the scene. It is very likely that that man saved some lives by appearing to disarm that gunman. We know that at least 29 people were taken to hospital.
So this dude is just letting off rounds with a backpack on. You know, someone wrestles the gun from him, and then someone runs up and throws a shoe at him, or whatever that was. What if the dude had explosives in his backpack? This is, come on, man. Tacky, trashy, and terroristic, man. That's the Edomite. And the soul which is lifted up in him is not upright. So we're going to have to live by faith, because there's going to be more stuff like this that they're going to use to justify what they're getting ready to do and the laws that they're getting ready to take from the people. He's framing mischief by laws, because this will lead to, all right, making a man an offender for a word. He's laying a snare for them that rebuke and negate. All right, we'll get that.
Among them are 2 police officers. Authorities are saying police were on the scene and engaging in a gun battle with these shooters within just minutes. Police are also saying that they found a car linked to the killed gunman, which does appear to contain improvised explosive devices. Now, the bomb squad there in Sydney is probing that vehicle. They are looking for more clues. They are looking for more details about the motives. And Willie, a massive police investigation is now underway. But we can already say at this point that this is one of the worst gun massacres in Australian history.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. He got that right. This is one of the worst psyops in Australia's history. And of course, it's got all the same type of calling cards that we see over the years, the numerology, the crisis actors. Of course, the government immediately coming out with a solution to the problem, because gun control wasn't strict enough in Australia. Well, now they've already, within a few days of this happening, have passed new gun legislation that will restrict guns even more for Australians. So they don't even tell you how this guy got a gun into Australia, because it's very strict in Australia. It's one of the strictest countries on the earth right now, but they want to make it even more strict. And of course, we know about all the anti-Semitic hate crime bills that will be passed, which of course will lead to pre-crime, because eventually, if you even think a thought about questioning the Rothschild state of Israel, well, you will be thrown in prison. And we know that the Noahide laws are coming as well, which most Christians out there are going to go along with, because they don't even realize that the Noahide laws are going to prevent you from spreading the gospel and spreading the truth about Jesus Christ. So even the ADL's website, as I've covered over the years, has things in place about how the Bible is a book of hate speech. So let's take a look at some of the calling cards right off the bat. Always sympathy, right, for one specific group of people, always targeted, always have to be victims, because if the world actually figured out who is behind all of these psyops and false flags and these schemes, well, the world would unite together and realize that they've been divided by the same group of people that they're not allowed to speak against. And we know that they love to do these things specifically on days like this. So it was the first day of Hanukkah, of course, right? So you play on people's heartstrings. It's the first day of Hanukkah. We even had a Holocaust survivor at this specific event. And you find the ISIS flag in the car of the supposed gunman. How convenient. You might as well leave the manifesto and all the writings on the guns and the bullets as well. Those are usually our calling cards for these false flags and signs. But identifying with ISIS and having an ISIS flag in your car is one of the ones that we always constantly see. Now, you saw the video clip, which was as fake as it gets, right? It's one standard camera that the media is immediately giving you, right? It's amazing how they pick and choose when they're going to release footage of these events stuff. Sometimes we never see any of the actual footage because it's too graphic for us to see, right? In other words, if it's a real event, they're not going to give you the actual footage for privacy reasons and everything else. But when they want you to believe an event actually occurred, they automatically release the footage because it puts you in a spell, so to speak, because you believe what you're seeing is reality because they're telling you it's reality without telling you that they actually script these things. The news is manufactured. So what we saw in that clip is the man tackling the supposed shooter, right? And what does the shooter do? The shooter doesn't put up much of a fight. He runs backwards. And the guy picks up the gun, aims it at the shooter. He doesn't shoot the shooter. What he does is he puts the gun next to a tree. Huh? Is that what you would do if you just disarmed a mass shooter? Would you immediately say, okay, I've got the gun, let me go lay it down over here so there's a chance that somebody else or him could go and pick it up again? I mean, makes zero sense, as most of these events do. It's almost like they deliberately do it to see if we're paying attention to how these people are acting in front of our eyes, and they know that most people are under hypnosis, so they don't actually see some of the things going on. Like these people running up the stairs, telling you that everybody was panicking running up the stairs. There's smiles on the faces of the majority of these people. They look like people who are panicking. Does the guy on the right look like he's panicking? It looks like somebody said, okay, and on 3, 2, 1, we're going to yell action. Everybody run up the stairs as if Jaws just appeared in the water. And that's what everybody does. They run up the stairs. You even get somebody, if there's a supposed shooter, of course, standing there photographing all of the people running up the stairs, right? Of course, the footage that we constantly get are all from cell phones, right? So, of course, we know that they have these people in place. And Bondi Beach, for anybody out there that's looking for the numerology time, 33rd degree coordinates for Bondi Beach. Bondi Beach had the Bondi Junction stabbings about 2 years ago. You might recall that. I talked about it at the time because they're trying to also pass strict knife laws in Australia. I kid you not. They don't even want you cutting with a knife inside of your home, cutting a stick of butter. They want to prevent all those types of things because everything is a weapon and everything is dangerous. And eventually they'll just want you to walk around with your hands tied behind your back because they'll convince people that your hands are a deadly weapon, which in some cases people do have pretty good fighting skills, so they can be used as a weapon. But this is what they continue to do. So we have the Bondi Junction stabbings, again, 33rd degree coordinates, and we have these supposed shootings on Bondi Beach at the 33rd degree coordinate. And remember, folks, okay, the Mossad carries these events out for multiple reasons. They're going to pass these hate crime laws, and these hate crimes are going to turn into thought crimes. Everyone's going to agree hate crimes are targeting these people, right? They go to synagogues, they go to this event on Hanukkah, right? Of course, because it's about one specific group of people that you're not allowed to ever question. And don't forget, the Mossad openly talks, as they did on 60 Minutes, about how the world is their stage. And this is how problem, reaction, solution works. They create the news, they manufacture the stories so that you eventually agree with them and want the things that they want in place. If they didn't have these fake shootings, nobody would be calling for gun laws. Does everybody understand that? I don't know how people don't get it. They're like, why would they carry out fake shootings at schools? Why would they do these things? Well, would you care then if all these citizens were armed? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't at all. How are they going to pass hate crime laws, which are going to prevent people from having free speech, unless they tie these things into hate speech, something that they've made up out of thin air so that you can't question the synagogue of Satan? But here's the synagogue of Satan themselves talking about how the world is their stage.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
And of course, like I said, problem, reaction, solution. You may remember the Port Arthur massacre back in 1996. This is what brought in the gun laws in Australia. And this is the second biggest shooting since the Port Arthur massacre. And in less than a couple of days, Australia has already announced strict new gun laws, right? So those are the two talking points. Immediately after the event, they're talking about new gun laws, which they've already announced, and they're talking about new hate speech laws. And mass shootings are rare in Australia. This is what the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, described the shooting as a terrorist incident. Mass shootings are rare in Australia, which is historically strict gun laws, but Sunday's deadly massacre has prompted Albanese and other Australian officials to revisit those laws and call for further restrictions to prevent more mass shootings in the future. And then you get this. This is the cherry on top here. It's crisis actor. This guy, if you know anything about these Mossad operations, this guy always seems to appear. And this is Arsen Ostrovsky, who was a survivor of the supposed massacre. And as I'm sure all of you would do if somebody was shooting at you or stabbing you or anything where you end up looking like this, supposedly, you take a selfie, right? Because you got to prove that you were there. I mean, why would anybody on earth take a selfie? This is his MO. He takes a selfie because these guys are trained in mind control operations. So they take pictures of themselves at these events, supposedly, so that people look at it and they say, he was there. He was really there, right? These are not natural behaviors. Those are things that we all need to pay attention to. When people are not behaving naturally, you can't make an excuse for them and say, well, they're in a panic. Some people behave differently, right? Like we saw the Erica Kirk situation. There's all these people who are in on these events they always portray this very bizarre, non-normal behavior. Taking a selfie if you're at a massacre where 15 people were killed and people around you are supposedly dying is not natural. I mean, this is borderline Robbie Parker stuff.
So there you have it. The dude just, in the middle of, just all out chaos. And again, this dude was also a survivor of what happened on October 7th, all right, in Israel when Hamas went and took, hostages and all of that. He was involved in that, and now he's, he flies to Australia, and now he's a part of this one. All right, so as you can see, I let, this is a call for an uprising. I let him just talk for a minute, just so you can see a few things tied to this particular happening. We're also going to jump here, all right, because basically they're framing mischief. This is what they do. And there's a lot of people looking at this and they're like, oh my God, this has to stop. All right. Psalms 36:4. He devised mischief upon his bed. He setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorred not evil. Okay. Psalm 62:3. How long will you imagine mischief against a man? Ye shall be slain, all of you, as a bowing wall. You shall be as a tottering fence. And Esau, Edom is as a tottering fence. Okay, and he's you're going to use these particular happenings to portray himself as a victim, but he's the aggressor. He's the problem. Okay, they're drawn after mischief, man. Proverbs 4:16. For they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. Proverbs 6:4. Proverbs 6:4. Frowardness in his heart, he deviseth mischief continually. He soweth discord, and this is going to lead to people being divided. Some people saying it's fake, some people saying it's real. That's just what he does throughout the four corners of the earth, taking away rights. All right, but let's jump here and look at some of this particular video. This is what the elder Malcolm was looking at on the video he had. This is off of the Jimmy Dore show.
This is about Kurt. Australia called for the recognition of a Palestinian state. So he's like, oh, we're gonna get you screwed. We're gonna screw you. We're gonna get you we're gonna paint you guys as anti-Semites in Australia. And this is so when you recognize a Palestinian state, they slaughter Jews in Australia. Why would they slaughter Jews in Australia?
Well,
that doesn't make it. Why would Muslims want to kill Jews in Australia if Australia was siding with the Muslims? That doesn't make any sense. So there was a false flag attack in Australia, and we're pretty sure it was engineered by the Mossad. And let's remember that they're calling it an act of pure evil. But let's remind people what an act of pure evil really is. This is an act of pure evil.
False flags are evil.
What Israel's doing in Gaza is called a genocide, and that's pure evil. So they're doing what was done to them in World War II. They're now doing to someone else, so they can steal their land. And they're doing So the funny thing about this attack in Australia, so they say there was some Muslims who attacked Jewish people on a beach at the first day of Hanukkah. Is that what it is? And they're having a celebration, and they just started shooting them, right? So it has all the hallmarks of a false flag. By the way, it's like a block away from a police department, yet it took 20 minutes for the police to respond.
Jimmy, Australia gave up all their guns after the first mass shooting they had.
That's right.
They gave up all their guns. So how did some Muslims sneak guns in?
Right. And if a Muslim wanted to go shoot Jewish people, why would they go to Australia to do it? Why wouldn't they go to Israel to do it? It doesn't make
I thought they go to the sound of the guns.
That's right.
Remember? They go to the sound of the guns.
Here's the weird thing. Candace Owens, did you know this, Kurt? Candace Owens says, she tweeted this out. She says, they have been signaling that a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet. It will age well.
So all of them are in on it. Candace Owens is controlled opposition. All right. They use these people, as pawns to tell you things, to say they told you anyway, to justify their evil. These people are a bunch of damn Satanists, man. All of them. They're all in on it. They're all playing their roles. All right. And things are getting ready to go left, because they're getting ready to bring strict measures, because something's getting ready to happen here. Now, we know last week there was a shooting in California centered around someone saying F the JEWs or the JOOs. Okay, so we're getting ready to see a lot of this rhetoric, man.
That was November 27th of this year. She said that the second week. Oh, well, lo and behold, here we are. And I like this, the Zionist cycle, fake a major attack. Okay, so we got it. So
That's anti-Semitism, Jimmy. I've been talking to some people, and they've said you're right.
Just to let you know what happened before we show you the truth. The 2025 Bondi Beach in Australia, it occurred on December 14th at Archer Park near Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. The terrorist attack targeted a Hanukkah celebration, Hanukkah by the Sea, organized by Shabbat of Bondi. Shabbat Shalom. Attended by around 1,000 people on the first day of Hanukkah. Details of the attack: 2 gunmen opened fire from a footbridge overlooking the event, using long-barreled firearms, including at least 1 bolt-action rifle, and firing around 50 shots. Authorities declared a terrorist incident motivated by anti-Semitism. Just like that. No investigation, no nothing. We know what it is. Described by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese as an act of pure evil. Well, I already showed you what an act of pure evil is.
When you said Chabad, I already knew what it was, because that's international spy ring posing as some sort of religious movement.
Yes. Oh, is that? Okay.
Yes. So that's Menachem Schneerson, the one that the Gentiles have. He sounds like
any sense. So what's going on here? What's going on in Australia? Who are the paid actors? Who are they being paid by? And what's the ultimate objective here?
The Jerusalem Post is now pushing a narrative saying that Iran was maybe involved in the Bondi Beach.
See that?
They say that Israeli authorities are investigating whether state actors, chiefly Iran, were involved in the mass shooting attack against Sydney's Jewish community at Bondi Beach on Sunday.
So, you know they want a war with Iran, and this is the way to get their war with Iran. Israel wants a war with Iran. They got Trump to bomb them once already. Within his first couple of months of presidency, Israel was able to get Trump to bomb Iran. So they want to bomb Iran and overthrow. So Israel has been on for a 30-year, at least if not more, trying to destabilize the total Middle East. They got Libya overthrown. They got Iraq overthrown. They got Syria overthrown. They're bombing the hell out of Lebanon, and now Yemen, the same thing. And now the final peg is Syria. So I mean, is Iran. So they want this war with Iran, and this is it. And Candace Owens somehow knew this was coming. A lot of other people did too. And here it comes. And so now they're trying to blame it on Iran so they can have a war with Iran. I'm not falling for it, and don't you either.
Senior U.S. official told Fox News that if the Islamic Republic ordered the attack, then the U.S. would fully recognize Israel's right to strike Iran in response.
So this is immediately this is greenlighting an attack on Iran. They've already greenlit an attack on Iran.
So as you can see, the least of the flock is drawing them out. All right?
You got to be so stupid not to see this.
Question, Jimmy. How would Israel possibly be able to do that when they've been losing a war in Gaza to civilians they're murdering? That means we got to do it, don't it?
That's that. So that would drag us into that's what that's about.
They can't do it. Right. Oh, by the way, neither can we. We couldn't win a war with anyone, right, and we haven't in 80 years.
That's right.
People call me crazy for thinking events like this might be potentially false flags, right? They say, how can everything be a false flag? But if the first response from Israel and the United States is to say, let's bomb Iran, I think it would be somewhat journalistic malpractice not to investigate that possibility. This is from the Times of Israel, 19th of August, 2025. Quote, in a scathing letter, Netanyahu gives Australian Prime Minister until Rosh Hashanah to act against anti-Semitism.
Or what? So he sent him a letter saying you have until Rosh Hashanah to act against anti-Semitism in Australia. By the way, Candace Owens banned in Australia. Did you know that? Because she said she doesn't like a genocide. And so they immediately, the Zionist Organization of Australia, got her banned. So this is
did Charlie Kirk for that.
So the control that Zionists have is not just in the United States. It's in Australia. It's in the UK. It's in Europe. Look what they did to Jeremy Corbyn. So this is they have a long tentacles of Israel. Israel, a country of 9 million people. It's unbelievable. They're getting Trump to overthrow Venezuela right now. It's unbelievable. They got Iraq done. They got Libya done. They got Syria done. They want Iran done. It's unbelievable. So here we go. So they threatened Australia. You better do something by Rosh Hashanah, or what? Or we're going to kill a bunch of people in your country, which is what they just did.
Or else what?
I wrote, your call for a Palestinian state pours full fuel on the anti-Semitic fire.
So that's what this is about, Kurt. Australia called for the recognition of a Palestinian state. So he's like, oh, we're gonna get you screwed. We're gonna screw you. We're gonna get you all beat. We're gonna paint.
And it just shows you the division going on amongst this beast system. Listen to a little bit more of this.
You guys as anti-Semites in Australia, and this is what so when you recognize a Palestinian state, people they slaughter Jews in Australia. Why would they slaughter Jews in Australia?
Well,
That doesn't
law
make it.
provides that.
Why would Muslims want to kill Jews in Australia if Australia was siding with the Muslims? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, because they were encouraged by siding with Muslims, and because they're so crazy, Jimmy. They're not like you and me. And
All right, so you could check out the rest of that video, all right, on the Jimmy Dore show. Let's go here.
CTC has identified around 18,000 known and suspected terrorists that the Biden administration let come into our country. These are individuals who, under normal circumstances, would never be allowed to enter our country because of their ties to jihadi groups like ISIS and al-Qaeda. Yet the Biden administration not only let them into the country, and in many cases facilitated their entry into the country.
And with that being said, the Trump administration is now saying, prepare yourself for a terrorist attack with these 18,000 terrorists that were allowed in here.
So again, you see the problem, reaction, solution. You see the two horns like a lamb. Okay, the left made a mess, the right's cleaning it up. All right, but who's at the forefront of the takeover? The small hat, the tiny top. All right, this is easy work to see what's going on here, man. Okay.
Again, they blame it all on Biden and the Biden regime. Why aren't they arrested? Why aren't they in jail? It just point the finger at the guy that was in here before and just blame it all on him with no repercussions. It's what it is every single day. They're ramping up these attacks. When they start to telegraph and warn you ahead of time that stuff's going to go down, you should prepare that something's going to go down. It's part of the rules to the game. They're definitely not going to come out and say, oh, get ready for something, and nothing happened. Okay? Something big is about to go down. You can tell, feel it in the air, all these events that are popping off at different places. They're trying to connect some of these shootings like what happened at Brown, what happened in Bondi in Australia, to terrorism connected to these Muslim groups. There's already staged aspects to those. I'm going to break them down on the live stream because they're going for the guns in Australia immediately, like right after all this stuff. It's pretty obvious. Problem, reaction, solution.
Everybody sees it.
And the government always taking the same route. So Tulsi Gabbard also going on Fox News saying the same thing, saying that we've got a tremendous amount of people here illegally and that they have all the information that something is about to happen. It seemed the stage is set for them to do something, and it would slow the United States down, and it would allow any other country like China or whoever else to advance on the world stage if we were slowed down whatsoever. We always warn about an EMP, lights out type of event, all these on the table still as their warning of a major terrorist attack. Could be a series of events. I just want to make sure people are vigilant, got their head on a swivel, are paying attention to their surroundings, especially if you're out there in a holiday type of event, like a.
So we told you, all right, they're going to, in order to get this NWO established, they're going to need some crazy events. So look for outages. Who knows what is going to happen. But at the end of the day, we know that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiah Shai, okay, these devils, all right, Psalms 58:1, do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do you judge uprightly, you sons of men? Okay, this is all a ploy for them to plunder, all right, hijack, all right, and set this digital Tower of Babel up to justify surveilling people under their skin when it's all said and done. Okay? Yea, in heart you work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. And this is what he does worldwide, man. False flag operations, false flag wars, you know, blaming people and then just bringing the sword. So something's getting ready to happen here in Babylon the Great. Okay? Point blank, period. Let's go here.
So they're trying to control the narrative, and that's what this is about. And they do it under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism, which they make sure happens by doing
this. Full
this.
source for Israel.
Right, because Zionism in Israel could not exist without anti-Semitism, so they have to gin it up, and they have to do false flags, and they have to pretend that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, which it's not. So here's Barry White.
So as you can see, people are waking up to the anti-Semantic talking point. People are like, well, wait a minute. How is being anti-Zionist being anti-Sem when, all right, you know, people are listening because Shem technically had 5 sons. So there's more than one nation that can classify as Shemitic. Yes, Esau is Shemitic, all right, but ultimately there's other people who are Shemitic. So this talking point of being anti-Shemitic, it doesn't make sense. Okay, and then when you look at the secular state of Israel that they're running, it has nothing to do with biblical prophecy of the true Israelites returning the throne of David. Righteousness is not being spread. What the hell is going on, man? Okay, people are waking up to it, and their own tongues are falling on themselves. Everything we're playing is Edomites. All right, or what looks to be Edomites just coming against Edomites. Your own mouth is condemning you, right?
Twice, this the new head of CBS News, and she's she's a Zionist activist. She was hired by a Zionist billionaire who bought 1/6 of the American media to help control the narrative around Israel and Zionism and Gaza. And
they're doing a great job.
And they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job. They got they wanted to bring a young, fresh face to CBS News, and then for some reason they made her up to look like a 65-year-old woman shopping on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
She does look like that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, she started out.
I know. She looks like.
She started out looking like a college student, and now she looks like she has a fur in her closet. So here she's gonna advocate. She's going to advocate for censorship on social media. Now, they've all done this. I'm going to show you Hillary Clinton. Everybody does it in the establishment. And here's her doing it. Watch this.
He was murdered 3 months ago. If you go on the internet, and frankly, it is leapt beyond the internet now into real life, and you talk to many seemingly sane people, they do not believe that the 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson that has been arrested and charged with his murder is the actual murderer. Who do they think? Yeah. They believe any number of theories. They believe that Erica Kirk was his Mossad handler and that he was killed by a foreign government. They believe that she was tracked by Egyptian planes. They believe that the rings on her hand are signs of Illuminati. The theories themselves are absurd. What matters is that, because she speaks about this in the interview, the brain rot that social media is allowing to spread.
There you go.
The way that it is detaching us from humanity, from our ability to talk to one another and our ability to discern the truth from just out and out lies is something that is incredibly important as a theme, I think.
That's what So look how she doesn't assume that she's wrong.
Yeah.
But when nobody trusts the official narrative, it's not her that's wrong. It's everybody else is crazy.
And a room full of supposed journalists doesn't know what the conspiracy. They're being informed by Barry Weiss. What's happening?
Yeah.
But they're journalists. Except for Erica Kirk, who's the Virgin Mother.
There's only one remedy for brain rot on social media, and that's censorship, right? That's it. And then there's primetime brain rot that you can only find on a network television brought to you by Pfizer.
Wow, I love seeing an older woman finally learn internet meme words like.
Here is let's see. This is Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan, Trump's pick for U.S. anti-Semitism czar. Really? Is he called that because he's going to directly cause more anti-Semitism? Because that's what it sounds like.
He's the king of it.
I'm the czar of anti-Semitism. I make anti-Semitism appear. So he says that the State Department is going to have a whole division dedicated to battling anti-Semitism. No kidding. Okay, let's watch.
And the president is sending a very strong message. Think about it. Ironically, I get off a plane. I am the president's representative, and I am walking off with a yarmulke, and I have kosher food, and embassies will have kosher food. It is a game changer. The appointment is a game changer. And it's not about history. It's about education. And how do we educate? Indonesia has 350 million Muslims living in the country. How do we change their textbooks? How do we hold the people in Gaza accountable that if America is paying for UN textbooks and supposedly the changes are made, why are those textbooks not being used and why are they using their old textbooks? We have to teach people it's not okay to educate your kids to be a martyr. Okay? And we have to...
But it is okay to educate your kid to hate Palestinians, think of them as subhuman, so then when you slaughter them, they cheer instead of holding you accountable for a genocide? That's okay, right?
It's okay to sacrifice Jewish people on October 7th yourself if it lets you steal the land of some Arabs.
That's right.
Which is what's called a martyr, you fat idiot.
Hold those countries accountable. How do we battle anti-Semitism on the internet? How are we doing better on algorithms? What companies can we work with? We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to Combat Anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology and working.
So when he says we're working on anti-Semitism, what he means is we're going to be censoring anybody who criticizes Israel or tells the truth about what they're doing.
They're not being pushy enough, he realizes.
Anybody who's even criticizing Zionism, they're now going to call anti-Semitism. So this is this big push now. They're buying up social media platforms. They're buying 1/6 of the U.S. media, and they've already bought the entire U.S. Congress and the presidency. So they're trying to control the narrative, and that's what this is about. And they do it under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism, which they make sure happens by doing
fuel
this.
source for Israel.
Right, because Zionism in Israel could not exist without anti-Semitism, so they have to gin it up, and they have to do false flags, and they have to pretend that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, which it's not.
Israel couldn't exist if the Zionists didn't do a deal with Hitler, the guy that killed all those.
So there you go. That's out of their own mouth. All right. And what this is going to do, as we in the book of Isaiah 29 and 21, it says that make a man, as a matter of fact, let's start at 20, for the terrible one is brought to naught and the scorner is consumed. All that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Okay, therefore, thus saith the Lord who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob, Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face wax pale. So we're going to be emboldened in these latter days. When he seeth his children, the work of my hands, the true Israelites, right? In the midst of him, they shall sanctify his name and sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and shall fear the God of Israel. See that? So what's happening here is they're laying a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. All right, because what this is all going to, boil down to is for them to say basically, all right, the domestic terrors amongst, America is too many people amongst us. We got to do this. We got to do that. And they're going to come down with some strict measures, man. And persecution will be on the rise. All right, amongst you Israelites. All right, as you can see the title of this article, U.S. military willing to attack designated terrorist organizations within America. Okay. If I had no concerns and I was confident in that lawful order, I would definitely execute that order. So they're coming down with, they're getting ready to wage war. Okay, let's listen to this. Okay. Stop Anti-Semitism founder wants anti-Semites hunted down and killed financially, legally, socially, and economically. All right. Google and SEO will follow you for the rest of your life when you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything. Our work will always be documented.
I would now like to welcome to the stage Leora Rez, founder and executive director of Stop Anti-Semitism, a watchdog organization that publicly exposes anti-Semitic behavior, creating consequences for those who espouse bigotry toward the Jewish people.
And it's something you can make memes about Trump. You could, speak against your own government. You could speak against anything. But when you speak against a particular group of people that's supposed to be a foreign government, okay, now there's a problem. See that?
Leora?
Not a problem, but an actual fight. A fight that the Jewish community did not choose, but one that we are now fully engaged in, confronting the global explosion of Jew hatred, unleashed since the attacks of 10/7. Stop Anti-Semitism was built for this. For years, we exposed hate, pressured institutions, and delivered consequences. But after 10/7, the scale of threat and the urgency of our mission changed dramatically overnight. Since that day, we have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites on our platforms. 1,000. Not theorized about them, not quietly documented them, feature them publicly, clearly, and with evidence. The results speak for themselves. Approximately 400 of these Jew haters have faced real consequences, including firings, suspensions, and expulsions.
So you can get fired from your job. Okay? If you don't agree with these people.
More than 300 of them remain in an active investigatory state across universities, corporations, DEI departments, unions, hospitals, nonprofits, and yes, unfortunately, federal government agencies. And yes, 5 arrests to date tied directly to threats and violence of anti-Semitic conduct we helped expose. This is what accountability looks like. This is what action looks like. This is what pushing back hard looks like against the tidal wave of hate that has consumed the United States and global population. From our founding, Stop Anti-Semitism has operated on one guiding belief. Anti-Semitism thrives when there are no consequences.
So they're getting ready to come with some hardcore consequences. Okay.
So we created consequences, a lot of them. We created visibility. We turned the spotlight towards those who targeted on our community, making silence impossible. On campuses where Jewish students were hunted through libraries, where professors glorified Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists, where mobs shut down our buildings.
All right, you can, whew, you could check that out. All right, let's look at one more.
Holy crap, Benjamin Netanyahu sounds like he's threatening every Western country on earth right now. You know why he sounds like that? Because he is. Because they're desperate. That's what desperation sounds like. Now they're overtly threatening other countries because they've lost the narrative, and people are leaving Israel in droves. People in the United States and Europe and Australia have turned against Israel. So Netanyahu went on he's sounding like a mafia.
See that? I demand that Western governments do what is necessary to fight this anti-semantics and provide the required safety and security for Ish communities worldwide. They will be well advised to heed to our warnings. I demand action from them now. So what do you think is getting ready to happen going forward? Okay.
Mafioso. So here is what, so after the false flag in Australia that Israel engineered, where they had an ISIS guy shoot some Jewish people at a Hanukkah celebration. Remember, ISIS is working with Israel. They work with the Mossad. When ISIS fighters were working with Israel to overthrow Assad in Syria, when they would get wounded, the Israel medics would fix them up. Just so you know. So we know that ISIS and Israel are working together along with Al-Qaeda. Because if they're supposed to be sworn enemies, isn't it weird that ISIS and Al-Qaeda never attack Israel? So that's how you know Australia was a false flag. And what this is all about is trying to get countries like Australia and the United States and the UK and other countries to censor and clamp down on people telling the truth about Israel and their genocide. That's what this is about. And so right now, he's going to try to threaten people over it. Watch this. If you don't censor, we're coming for you. Watch this. So I guess I'll read it. Let me read it. I demand, listen to how he talks. Listen to this. I demand that Western governments do what is necessary to fight anti-Semitism and provide the required safety and security for Jewish communities worldwide. They would be well advised to heed our warning. I demand action from them now. Whoa. Whoa, that sounds like Tony Soprano. That's what that sounds like. So the man for whom there is no bottom to depraved atrocity is threatening those closest to him now? How can that be? I mean, Netanyahu is the Mr. Rogers of the Middle East. I mean, it doesn't. The bottom line is that if you don't acknowledge what Netanyahu is now, then you're also part of it. Let me just put it that way. I demand that Western governments do what's necessary to fight anti-Semitism and provide security and safety for Jews worldwide. That would be well advised. They would be well advised to heed our warning. I demand action from them now. Holy crap, Benjamin Netanyahu sounds like he's threatening every Western country on earth right now. You know why he sounds like that? Because he is. Because they're desperate. That's what desperation sounds like. Now they're overtly threatening other countries because they've lost the narrative, and people are leaving Israel in droves. People in the United States and Europe and Australia have turned against Israel. Everywhere. South America. The world.
So who's going to be the last one standing fighting for them is Babylon. And they're going to be drawn into absolute chaos and war for doing so. So you're going to see more rebellions against the tiny top, against Babylon. All right. And you're going to start to see many of these European countries, all right, divided over this issue. You're going to start to see more and more legislation being passed here in the United States surrounding not being able to talk against these people. You're going to see persecution in 2026. This is why you see particular camps flipping their stance. See that? Let's get the book of, all right, because remember what Haman tried to do, which he was an Amalekite. Okay, when you go to the book of Esther 3:8, and Haman said to King Ahasuerus, which is Xerxes, all right, I believe he was in the movie, the movie 300 was centered around some of his history. It says, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all the people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. All right, get their ass out of here. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those who have the charge of the business, and bring it into the king's treasury. So Haman, all right, was getting ready to, basically he lied because he knew that our forefathers were against his forefathers. Remember, it goes back to the womb, Jacob and Esau. So Haman, being an Amalekite, as he got, he got put up into a position in the Persian Empire. He wrote a letter to the king saying, look, there's a people amongst you, like they're rebellious. All right. Basically, they were getting ready to pass laws and legislation centered around putting us to death for money. Okay. Because basically it's not profitable to you, all right, to suffer these people. All right. When you read this in the NLT, all right, this is what it's all going to boil down to. It's not in your interest to let them live. They were rebellious, and it goes deeper into it in the book of in the additions to Esther. All right, but that's the notion. All right, they're gonna blame the Israelites. There's gonna a very, very strict and stern warning is gonna be put out about you Israelites in 2026, because he knows that he has only but a short time. So they're gonna make you an offender for a word, because ultimately the jig is up. All right. They have nowhere else to go but to turn to their power, which is what? Propaganda and the sword. And this is where we're going to need divine intervention. OK, and some of you are afraid. All right. But we ultimately welcome it. We openly welcome that, because that's when the Lord is going to make his move. Revelation 12:12. Therefore, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil will come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. You see that? And again, fear not. All right. Let's get the book of 1 Maccabees 2. All right. Let's get it here. 1 Maccabees. All right. 1 Maccabees chapter 2. And 61. And thus considered throughout all the ages, this is centered around Hanukkah, all right, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dungs and worms. Today he is lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned unto his dust. His thoughts shall come to nothing. So pretty soon the Lord is just going to make a move on these devils, man. But, all right, we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai, they got a lot up their sleeve, all right, and it's obvious what they're getting ready to do. Okay, they just brought out that fake version of the Epstein files. All right, Israel has just signed a $6 million contract to train ChatGPT to be more pro-Israel. They've lost control of the narrative, man. Okay, they're through. Okay. There you go. U.S. Anti-Semantics czar vows AI blitz to crush conspiracy theorists spreading wrong thinking about these people. And Trump admitted, all right, forgot to bring this out. He admits here that he's bought and paid for by these people. He openly admits he's owned by them.
My husband Sheldon was an amazing guy, and he'd come up to the office, and there was nobody more aggressive than Sheldon. I think I spent more time with him and you, because you usually came up together, but he'd call and say, can I come over, please? I say, Sheldon, I'm president of the United States. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's like, maybe tomorrow. How about tomorrow? No, please, just for a little while. And I would, he'd always say 10 minutes. It turned out to be about an hour and a half. Right?
So the president of the United States says no. He says, I'm coming, and he comes. So who is really running the country? Sheldon Adelson and now Miriam Adelson. Steph was right. That's the first female president of the United States is Miriam Adelson. DD Geopolitics says, this clip from tonight's White House Hanukkah dinner is wild and deeply revealing. So you want to see it? This is really tough to watch. But here we go.
Miriam Adelson, you want to come up here? Come up here, Miriam. Miriam gave my campaign indirectly, 250 million. She was number one.
Wow. Whoa. Nothing says ring in the Hanukkah like $250 million. Am I right?
Yeah. I like he's telling us who his master is.
Yep. Nothing questionable about that. I mean, it's not like Santa wants to occupy the White House, draining all our resources.
So meanwhile, you Americans are sitting here blaming the poor for all of your issues. All right. We can clearly see who's in control and where all of the shekels are coming from and who's in are going to. All right. All of your shekels, your taxpayer dollars, but who's in control? So 2026. All right. Strap up your boots, gird up your loins and pray to Yahweh Bashim Yahshua for victory, man, because they're coming. Shalom.